Hello, my name is Hampus Jacobson, and I'm a climate investor.
And that basically creates my first question. What do you mean by it?
Yeah, good question. So I invest in companies that I believe that can reduce, reverse, and mitigate climate change. So the heating of the globe that sort of creates anything from extreme weather to famine to water level rising. And that's sort of the thing I worry about. And that's the companies I invest in are companies that can exponentially change that. So not companies that can just take for $1, you can add one more thing, but a system that grows in and by itself if you successfully do it. Because that, I feel, is what we need.
So create an ecosystem for the ecosystem.
I think not only creating ecosystems for ecosystems, but also there are a lot of technologies that are very exponential. If you build a windmill and solar farms or anything, it is very much like $1 for $1. It works, but I think that with software, you can really create completely new things. So anything from you can create like a new species of a plant, and then from that plant can grow in different environments, which would just open up new opportunities.
So as an investor, how do you choose which company to invest in so that you could both create profit for yourself and for the ecosystem?
I think that the thing is, there are multiple aspects of that question. I think at the end of the day, I think that investing is very much about the team. Like if you have a team that really think that they can, that I really believe can change the world and do something really big, I think this is the first thing and the thing I'm mainly going to look at. And I think that the tricky thing with that recommendation is that most people think that they are that person. So it doesn't help me to get people to contact me because then everybody's, oh, I'm that person. But the thing is that there are certain markets which I think are that, first of all, have the potential to change things, but also that there are certain markets that are essentially non-linear markets. And what I mean by that, there are certain things where you're going to be in a world where you need to change how you create energy on the planet. That's not something that you can do on your own. That's not something, if you're like a 28-year-old brilliant person, you can't just say, oh, I'll just contact the biggest energy company and like this, or I'll raise money and build nuclear power plants. That's a completely different world. But I think that there are certain systems where you actually can, where you can create something where it's like, this is a system which is kind of a non-linear, and also like, it's not a world where you're going to be pushing a rope, where you're going to like asking someone else to act, but it's a world where you can move the things forward. So one example is like, a simple example is like plant-based meat. Like, oh, we did this amazing like plant-based burgers. And then suddenly a lot of people say, oh, like I can become a vegetarian. I'm happy to move to this because now I have something I can put on the barbecue or something. That is something where you don't need regulators. You don't need mass amounts of money. You can actually start doing it. And the same thing you have in software. You can do, for example, carbon accounting. So you can look at supply chains and figure out like where are we actually spending carbon with trucks being half loaded or things being moving around unnecessarily or just like being moved, but that's where carbon goes. That's not something where you need mass amounts of money or you need like a license to do it. It's something that you actually just can start doing. So I think for me, it's like I'm looking for these extreme people who have extreme ideas that work in markets that I think that actually are movable markets and not something where it's honestly like a regulated problem. And then thirdly, I think these problems have to be something that actually moves the meter on climate change. So if we're saying, oh, I've made this amazing company that sort of plastic straws move the paper straws. That's great. Like we have these paper straws. The thing is, plastic straws, if you compare that to the rest of the parts in climate change, it's nothing. It's nothing. And I think that's one of the things I'm so worried about as well. So one important thing is like we often find these things where we get this picture of a tortoise, with like a plastic straw in its nose. And suddenly we say, we got to get rid of this plastic straws. But nobody pauses and said, oh, let's think about like how bad are plastic straws? And the thing is, plastic straws are not good, but there are much worse things happening. And I think that then we don't for some strange reason, we don't look at the bad things. So it is as if you're a class of kids at school and there are a bunch of kids that are running around with guns. There are a bunch of kids that are bullying other kids and really destroying their lives. And then there's one kid who's got a cap wearing inside. And if the teacher now says like, you with a cap, take it off. We got to regulate against caps. It's like, well, the bullies, like you're going to leave them alone. And the kids with guns, you're going to leave them alone. And then all the attention is in classes. You can't wear a cap inside. It feels like, I'm sorry, is that what we should talk about? I think that's the thing that sort of worries me is that we're going after these symbols that essentially are easy things to talk about or easy things to measure instead of going after the things that are really, really dangerous. And like if you take the analogy with bullying, the thing is there's so many teachers who turn a blind eye to bullying because they're also afraid of the bully. Or it's they don't really know who did what. And I think that's about creating a culture that you should help other people to excel. And if somebody is bullying you, like, of course, that's a horrible thing. But the thing is, the bully is probably a very, very sad person that also needs help. So I think that we can't turn the victim into the victim, and we can't turn the bully into the enemy, and we can't turn the teacher to fix it to a hero. We got to figure out that there's not clear-cut role. There's no hero, there's no victim, there's no exactly. It's a thing where you got to work with it. It's a slow system. The problem with slow systems is they're boring to talk about. They don't make news articles. It's like something we can't measure really well. But those are the things we need to look at. We shouldn't sort of go ban plastic straws because there's this horrible picture of a tortoise with a straw in its nose. We should also, of course, look at those tortoises, but that's not the main thing we can do.
I know that you had a few startups of your own in your life. I Googled and I found an interview where you said that you had created your first startup basically to hang out with your friends.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, what happened was essentially our first startup was started that we were a group of friends that were building a lot of stuff together and just as fun. And what happened was that a group of us got the possibility to build an arts exhibition for somebody. Another two people got the possibility to kind of work with software and got paid for that. And two other people, got the opportunity to make special effects for movies. And what happened was that we knew each other really well. And we just felt that it was fun to kind of be in the same room and work. I mean, we weren't working with the same things. So we just said, let's start a company and then we can just be in the same room and hang out. And, I mean, we're not really working on the same project, but like we like hanging out. So we started that thing and that transformed from this kind of almost like dorm room thing to kind of being a company over like a year. But it was a very kind of natural and slow process of just hanging out and having fun and doing things which we really enjoyed doing, we felt that we were good at, and that we felt that other people enjoyed. And in some cases, other people enjoyed so much they wanted to pay for it. But the thing is, I think that we did 50 different things that first year. And I'm not saying like we were pivoting. I'm not saying we were like business model canvassing. I'm not saying like we were doing any of this like systems people are talking about. We were just playing around. And then one day, like one of the things got more and more attention. And forcefully, sadly, we had to quit the other things. It was as if we're like new parents with a newborn child who have lots of entertainment. Like we play chess, we go swimming, we go jogging. And then the problem that the newborn child takes more and more and more time. And then suddenly we realized that we actually enjoyed hanging out with this child a lot more. And we just didn't have time for chess playing or watching documentaries or go jogging anymore. So it was not that we kind of designed it that we were going to get pregnant and get this child. It was more like the child was one of the 20 things we did. And that was the thing that just took more and more attention, and that turned into a company.
What I actually wanted to ask is this. You have had several startups, and they have been something different from what you're doing now. Do you happen to remember what was the moment when you turned into investing in sustainability?
Yes and no. So the thing is, I would say in the rearview mirror, you can always look back and try to define the moment when it happened. And I think that at the end of the day, I think that it's not really true. I don't think people wake up one day and realize that everything changed. But I think for me, it was a gradual process that sort of turned into a turning moment, which was, I've been an investor for 7 years. I've built a lot of companies before that. And the last 7 years, I've sort of gone from investing in people I'm really fascinated about, to topics I'm really fascinated about, to things that I really want to be built. And then slowly the thing with those things is like I worked with anything from mental health, chronic illness, pain reduction, communication, EQ training for children, like many things that I thought was just, I liked them, I liked the people, I liked the topic. But then what started happening last year is that I started more and more of my time I just started reading more and more about climate. And not saying like reading as in like reading long fiction books and IPCC reports, but it's just like news flash everywhere, everything I like for all of us, right? And what happened was like I started spending 1 hour a week, 5 hours a week, 10 hours a week. And suddenly one day this spring, I started feeling that this is just such a massive distraction. I hate distractions. Whether it's the computer game or like sugar or news, I just hate it. I actually personally avoid reading the news because I think it distracts me a lot and I can't do anything about it. But then one day I felt that I created so much worry that I had to just full stop quit and not read anything more about climate. And then suddenly when I was thinking about it, I felt, or I make it my full-time job to read and learn anything about climate. I think that sort of just became such an absurd thinking. Why would I turn away from the thing I'm actually worried about, instead of like double clicking and going full into that thing I'm most worried about? And I could have taken the other route. And I think I've taken the other route on other things. When people say poisoned water, child poverty, inequality, many of these things I've just said, I just do climate change right now. I think your startup idea is amazing. I think it's going to help many things, but I'm not an investor because I only have time for climate change right now. But I know investors that love the topics you do, and I'm happy to introduce you to them. But the thing is, I'm not a contact bank. I can't spend my time to that. So many people, I just say, sorry, I do climate change. That's what I focus on. But the thing is, I think that what I'm happy about is it helped me filter and focus my time. But it's not, I would say, it's not that I've changed. It's more like I'm a machine. My focus is my only currency. I'm just trying to spend my currency on the things that I find most important, which means I just have no focus left for other things.
And probably my last question for this interview. What are your feelings about Slush 2019?
Yeah, I am speaking later today about carbon removal. I have massive amounts of meetings. I think that Slush is such a magical thing because everybody gathers. And I think what I really love about Slush is because it's created by students, then it's constantly on the verge what's acceptable and constantly makes people slightly uncomfortable. You're inside in this massive kind of discotheque filled with gardens and crazy people. And I think that puts people in this environment of anything's possible. So I think that's really what I love about Slush. It's like when you go to a masquerade party, then suddenly all of these new things happen because everybody's already crazy. So I think it's such a big difference if you go to a big trade conference where everybody's dressed up in suit and stiff and it's really boring. And then you kind of strict to generally, I think most people spend mass amounts of energy trying to be normal. I think that is a very unnecessary thing to spend because most people are not interested in other people that are normal. We want to see other real people. So if we stop spending energy on being normal, but spending energy on being ourselves, we actually can express ourselves and be who we are. And that's going to save us energy, but also make us more interesting and make us more open-minded to other things. And I think what's lovely about Slush is when you're in a crazy environment, people just realize I can just be myself.
As I can see, you're already in the energy flow that will keep the audience engaged. So good luck with your presentation.
I'm always in this energy flow.
Will you tell me the secret?
Good sleep.
All right. Thank you very much. We have a few more startups and speakers today for the second day of Slush. It's a great, amazing event. Quoting my sound producer, it's going to be cool and awesome, cool and awesome. So, hello, Ekaterina. Could you please tell our listeners a few things about yourself before we...
Hi. So my name is, as Marina mentioned, my name is Ekaterina, but everyone calls me Kate. I live in Helsinki for the past 10 years, studying here, currently working for Cashoff. I don't really have much hobbies now, I have to admit, because I'm studying and working at the same time. So my only hobby is to do my homework, apparently, nowadays. And this is what I was doing this morning as well. Yes.
I guess that's the moment my sound producer is giving you an sympathetic look because someone has to graduate at some point. At some point. Right. What's your position within the company and what is the company about?
I'm a marketing director there. And the company is providing cashback solutions for consumers. So I started working there in July, and it was funny how I found this job because I was in Turkey with my parents and I decided that I might feel a bit bored nowadays. Should I try some new challenge? And then I was just scrolling the job ads and found that great bed, and I was like, okay, maybe that sounds a bit weird but interesting. So I just applied for it and here I am doing the marketing.
Okay, that's one of the stories I will keep in my collection. That's like how to find a job, get bored while on holidays.
Yes, that was a bit weird because I remember my mother was like, don't you have anything to do? Why do you do that? So, yes, and I really enjoyed Cashoff. Headquarters is in London. So I travel there quite often nowadays, and because it's a startup, so there is a lot of potential for growth. So I keep on getting new tasks coming in and out again and do something challenging that I've never done before. And it's interesting to see that I can actually do it. So very inspiring. So basically Cashoff is a fintech startup. What's your benefits again, like classical banks and stuff? What's your specific offer? Yes, we are a fintech startup. So I'm not sure if your auditor is familiar with cashback. I guess they are. So our offer is a bit more unique because we are working, the cashback goes not from banks but from the retailers. So we are working with big brands like Heineken, and basically they offer up to 50% of cashback to the users or consumers. And this way they also acquire new auditory and new customers, and they get information on their customers and their behavior.
Okay. I wonder if Heineken is somehow represented at Slush after party, but probably there will be a perfect promo material and we can start making cash out of it. I guess it's your first Slush. So what are your impressions of day one and what are your expectations of day two?
It's actually not my first Slush. I've been working as a volunteer here a couple of years ago, so I'm happy to be back as a startup after all these years. I always feel a little bit like, let's say, hyped on Slush because it's such a great atmosphere and so